olive tree. I walked this land before the swords turned its living body into a laden table. I come from there, and I weep to make myself known to a returning cloud. I learned all the words worthy of the court of blood so that I could break the rule. I learned all the words and broke them up to make a single word, homeland. I am there. I have a moon past the peak of words. I have traversed the land before swords turned bodies into banquets. I come from there. I have learned the words of blood-stained courts in order to break the rules. I have learned and dismantled all the words to construct a single word, home. This is an excerpt from the prolific Palestinian poet, Mahmoud Darwish. I start with poetry to remind us that creating a just world requires more than new policies and laws, but a new poetics, by which I mean creative care and attention to how we treat and value one another. I start with poetry because poetry is easy to underestimate. Sitting next to a 3-inch tomb of a book, a poem appears frivolous and slight. But a poem can slice into your insides and open you up to the world like 1,000 footnotes never could. And when it comes to Palestinian poetry in particular, the moon is everywhere. Whether it's in Darwish's words, as we just heard, or Mossab Abu Toa's crushing lament for whom the moon overhead is not the moon, as he traces the slain bodies of daughter and father. Or Naomi Shihab Nye, who writes in the voice of the moon, I, who have been staring down so long, see no reason for the sorrow humans make. I dislike the scuffle and dust of bombs blasting very much. It blocks my view. Or Summer Farah, who recounts how, in 2019, Israel sent a space probe to the moon that exploded upon impact, leading her to conclude the moon is pro-Palestine. There is no blemish to her light. In eulogy of the children who have joined the stars, she fights back. Again and again, we witness the moon as a main character in Palestinian poetics and in Arab literature and ecologies more broadly, where hot desert days give way to cooler nights, lit up by that celestial orb as a guide. And so, as our entire planet grows dangerously hot, perhaps it is time we all tune in to Palestinian poetics and revisit our relationship to the moon as we attempt to know justice in the Anthropocene. To that end, I am reminded of a passage from the visionary writer, James Baldwin. He says, there's a reason, after all, that some people wish to colonize the moon and others dance before it as an ancient friend. This distinction between colonizers and friends reflects, in a way, radically different paradigms of knowing and relating to the universe and our place in it. For me, Baldwin's words raise an even more fundamental question. Who owns the future? Or more precisely, what values, knowledges, aspirations, and desires are choreographing or colonizing our shared future? It is the kind of question that I suspect as sociologists we would question, asking whether anyone should or can own this unfolding of time and space. And if not, then how else can we relate How else can we relate to or redistribute the future in ways that are more just and joyful? In questioning the question in this way, we join a much longer freedom struggle that has included scholars, artists, activists, who have reckoned with the role of science, technology, data, and facts in fighting oppression and knowing justice in different eras. In the Black radical tradition, which has shaped me, we have trailblazers like W.E.B. Du Bois on your left and Ida B. Wells Barnett on your right. While Du Bois deployed social science as a tool to dismantle white supremacy, Wells wielded data to counter the lies used to justify lynching. But they didn't stop there. Both were also artists and storytellers. Du Bois wrote poetry and speculative fiction, and as a journalist, Wells countered deadly narratives with factual stories of her own. Then when it comes to critically engaging technology in particular, there was Dr. King, who many don't know actually majored in sociology. We have guided missiles and misguided men, King warned. Though I think misguided is putting it mildly, don't you think? We have cruel, corrupt, and cold-blooded men. So what might an analysis of our current historical moment through the lens of this Black intellectual tradition entail? For starters, I think it would shine a light on guided weapons euphemistically called lavender and the gospel, automating warfare and raining hell on our Palestinian kin, ripping into the flesh of children and erasing entire families from the face of the earth in our name. I think it would also take aim at subtler forms of tech-mediated injustice and indifference that too often escape scrutiny precisely because it comes wrapped in the guise of efficiency and progress. But efficient at what? Progress for whom is what we have to continuously ask. And when we reckon with who is attempting to steal the future, we find it's the very same people plundering the present. Those not only deploying military technologies, but also attacking higher education as part of their broader campaign to convince us that democracy is an outmoded software. Move fast and break things. Never mind the people and places broken in the process. The good news is that more people are waking up to the eugenic schemes of the artificial intelligentsia and refusing to worship at the feet of the broligarchy, these self-styled guardians of the galaxy, those who created the very problems against which we must guard. I think it should give us pause that the same people hyping AI as the future of education are also the ones waging war against academic institutions. Take J.D. Vance, who at the Paris AI Summit a few months ago stated that, quote, "Our schools will teach students how to manage, how to supervise, how to interact with AI-enabled tools as they become more and more part of our lives." The same J.D. Vance, who gave a speech in 2021 titled, "The Universities Are the Enemy." In his words, if any of us want to do the things we want to do for our country and for the people who live in it, we have to honestly and aggressively attack the universities. More recently, anti-DEI crusader Chris Rufo said that the Trump administration must go after the ideological programs, the grants for critical race theory, gender ideology, liberatory pedagogy, whatever you may have. All of that needs to just be burned to the ground. I mean, really, truly, it needs to be gutted and dismantled, he said. Likewise, the founder of the anti-egalitarian philosophical movement known as the Dark Enlightenment, a character by the name of Curtis Yarvin, who has the ear of many Silicon Valley elite, argues that, quote, "The most powerful people in the West today, measured strictly by their ability to influence the real world, are journalists and professors." Now, I know you all don't feel that powerful, but apparently they think otherwise. Finally, in describing students who we can see as putting liberatory pedagogy into practice by opposing a US-funded genocide. Palantir CEO Alex Karp says, we kind of think these things that are happening on college campuses are a sideshow. No, they are the show. Because if we lose the intellectual battle, he says, you will not be able to deploy an army in the West ever. My point is that if the artificial intelligentsia understands the dangers of liberatory learning, then we sure as hell need to embrace its power for social transformation. And in the process, we must reflect on the relationship between sociology and social movements, in which technologies of empire, technologies of war and surveillance are not only being questioned and critiqued, but actively resisted and reimagined, reminding us that analysis and action go hand in hand. And here I just want to shout out the Mask Off Mursk global campaign, led by the Palestinian youth movement, including activists here in Morocco, who organized the dock workers to refuse to load ships carrying arms to Israel, arms which are increasingly peddled as more efficient at killing and maiming targets because they're powered by AI. And so again, the good news is that more and more people are pushing back against the never-ending barrage of fantasies and fears about artificial intelligentsia. So what would it mean not only to be critical of those trying to colonize the future, but to also dance with ancient friends? For me, it means carving out space for creativity, appropriating the idea of AI to mean, for example, abundant imagination. Whereas the sociological imagination deepens our understanding of what is, abundant imagination invites us to envision what could be, beyond the horizon of our current reality. To explore this possibility, we're going to try a quick exercise. We're going to split the room in half. For those of you in the fuzzy middle here, just decide which side you want to be on, okay? So this side, your catchphrase when I point to you is be bold. And I want you to shout it in unison like you're trying to shoot me like a rocket in the sky. Ready? Go.
Be bold.
Ah, that's not good. People in the back too, come on, let's go.
Be bold.
Good. Okay, this side, your catchphrase is get real. And I want you to say it like a very bored teenager, okay? Get real. Ready? Go.
Get real.
Okay, space travel.
Be bold.
Free public transportation. Colonize Mars.
Be bold.
Decolonize Earth. AI superintelligence.
Be bold.
Cancel student debt. Build underground bunkers to survive the AI apocalypse.
Be bold.
Build affordable housing for all. Spend billions on weapons and war.
Be bold.
Invest in peace and well-being for all. You get the idea. Boldness is rationed, while realism is mass-produced. We are in many ways trapped inside the lopsided imagination of those who monopolize power and resources to benefit the few at the expense of the many. So what will it take for us to be bold when it comes to our social visions? I think it entails fostering creativity as much as criticality, so that shifting from artificial intelligence to abundant imagination would mean asking ourselves, if not this deeply unjust version of society, then what? Here I'm inspired by the work of historian Robin D.G. Kelly, who reminds us that without new visions, we don't know what to build, only what to knock down. We not only end up confused, rudderless, cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers and tactics, but a process that can and must transform us. I see this as an invitation to be imaginative and even playful when it comes to uprooting the deadly status quo. One of my favorite examples of this is called the white-collar crime early warning system. Instead of using predictive policing techniques to forecast street crime, artist Sam Levine flips the script by creating a heat map that flags city blocks where financial crimes are likely to occur. The system not only brings the hidden but no less deadly crimes of capitalism into view, but it includes an app that alerts users when they've entered high-risk areas to encourage awareness and vigilance. Taking it one step further, it includes facial recognition to flag individuals who are likely perpetrators. And the training set used to design the algorithm includes the profile photos of 7,000 corporate executives downloaded from LinkedIn. But artists are not the only ones with creative vision. Organizing, too, is visionary work. This includes those building worker movements within the tech industry, insisting that tech won't build it. No tech for ICE, no tech for tyrants, among other campaigns. When it comes to the ecological crisis and big tech's role in exacerbating it, there's a growing movement afoot to fight the expansion of data centers around the world. In fact, I heard some wonderful presentations here at the conference about just this, including protests not too far from me in Memphis, Tennessee, as people learned that Musk built a 750,000 square foot supercomputer named Colossus, intended to power xAI's Grok chatbot and other AI projects. The facility uses natural gas turbines that were initially operating without proper permits, becoming one of the biggest air polluters in the area and adversely affecting historically Black neighborhoods that have already seen their fair share of environmental injustices. Those fighting data centers are part of a growing global movement, from No Tech for Apartheid, Internet Freedom Foundation in India, Take Back Tech, which is a global group, and Surveillance Watch, among many others, combining critique with creativity in the face of oppression. Hamle, for example, has played a vital role in documenting violations and conducting research and leading numerous campaigns for Palestinian digital rights. One final initiative I'll share now is a project that my lab has had the honor of collaborating with called the Phoenix of Gaza XR Project. This is an immersive experience created by and for Palestinians and those who believe in the seemingly radical notion that all life is sacred. It invites us to walk around a virtual Gaza captured with a 360-degree camera before and after the most recent devastation, looking directly into the smiling faces of children playing in a park, standing next to a teenager, passionately reciting poetry, peeking over the shoulders of elderly women in a sewing circle, and walking through the rubble of once magnificent churches, mosques, bathhouses. In this way, the Phoenix of Gaza team is preserving images of physical structures, cultural events, arts, dance, religious sites. And in the process, they're also imagining a world beyond settler colonialism, beyond apartheid and genocide, in order ultimately to return and rebuild. Tragically, one of the photojournalists shown here, Yahya Sobe, was recently martyred in an Israeli airstrike just hours after celebrating the birth of his daughter. And so we carry on this work to honor him and so many others. Taken together, these initiatives are integrating analysis with action, critique with creativity, science with the sacred, envisioning a world beyond borders, beyond surveillance and supremacy, and in the process striving to dismantle the walls in our own minds, those mental barriers that tell us to get real when we attempt to imagine otherwise. To close then, I want to express my deepest gratitude to global sociologists for Palestine, for urging ISA to imagine otherwise when it comes to academic complicity in apartheid and genocide. This includes many of our South African colleagues who've spoken out ending South African apartheid. Likewise, we should not be surprised that the German Sociological Association has objected to the ISA's decision to suspend the Israeli Association, given the history of Germans intervening against the South African case at the ICJ. In its decision, ISA stands as an example for many other professional associations to take a principled institutional stance to support the call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. By endorsing a boycott, ISA and hopefully many of our national sociological associations affirm that we are here not only to analyze the world, but to act in it, in the tradition of Du Bois, of Wells, of my beloved teacher, Michael Buravoy, and so many others. Gone are the days when we feign neutrality. The world is burning, and we can't simply stand at a distance, measuring the heat, calculating the chemical composition, tracing the origins of the blaze, and modeling its spread. Instead, we have to pick up a damn hose and work with others to put out the many blazes wreaking havoc in people's lives, but also picking up a plow to grow something new in its ashes. Echoing Darwish's words at the start, a moon will rise from my darkness. I close with one final provocation, and that is, it may be the end of the world, but there are other worlds. Thank you.